welcome to the first edition of my new JAL show. If you don't know who I am, my name is Brock Johnson, and you're going to get to know me because I'm going to be here every week on the pitch. But before we get into this first show, I got the executive commish and founder of this great league here to say a few words. Hey Cale, how's it going?
Hey Brock, and hey everybody. I just wanted to say that I'm very excited for Brock to be hosting this new video show. For the last couple weeks we've been talking about how to structure it, film it, and all that good stuff. So it's cool that he's going to be finally bringing you something each week that you can actually watch that encompasses all the news around the league that went down over the week and other stuff. You all know I already have my hands on a lot of stuff in this league. So for this show I'm not going to be involved at all other than helping Brock produce it. But what I mean by that is I'll take care of all the tech savvy behind-the-scenes type stuff like graphics and that rundown menu you see of it right over there, that nifty little one. But as far as the show's actual content, that's all going to be up to Brock. And listen, there is nobody more qualified to be hosting this, including even maybe me, and providing analysis and whatever else he's going to do. Because Brock is the most decorated player to ever play in the JAL. I mean, he's won like 5 championships, multiple MVPs, countless All-Star awards. I mean, if there was ever like a Hall of Fame for JAL, he'll be the first one to go in. So you may not always agree with the stuff he says. You might disagree with his opinions, but he knows what he's talking about. So yeah. And one more thing.
Alright, that's enough of that. It's time to get to my show. Okay, so our first topic of the show today is going to be the opening game of JAL 12 between the Lynx and the Fog. The rest of the schedule is going to be, we're going to talk about it later on the show today, but right now we're just going to focus on this game. And if you think about it, looking back to last tournament, it was a championship game. It was a close, gritty game, low scoring. The Fog won 3-0. And if you really dive into these two teams, they're a great matchup. They both have okay hitting and pretty good pitching. Probably the most consistent pitcher in the league for the Lynx and Jordan Halverson, who throws strikes and makes you swing at the ball. And then Jake, even though he's a little unorthodox, does a pretty good job as a pitcher as well. So you can expect another low-scoring game, maybe not as low as the last one, but another pretty low-scoring game that's close and exciting to watch because these two teams are becoming the big rivalry in this league. Okay, next up we got the Missouri Express Big Three. Now this is probably the biggest news that we've heard so far going into JAL 12. Garrett Blaine, the Missouri Express owner, has come out of nowhere literally to sign 3 top 10 players going into their first tournament. The first 2 were last week in Kyle Godino and Brad Williamson. He signed both of them to a max rookie contract of $6 over 2 tournaments. And then the last one came just a few days ago when he sweet-talked Tate Klein into signing a high school contract, which means no salary, and it expires once he graduates high school. I don't know how he's done it, people, but Blaine has convinced 3 top 10 players to sign with a guy that they've never met and who lives halfway across the country. But either way, the team is set and done now, and if we really look at the team, it's a title-contending team. Let's start with Tate Klein, who's actually played JAL before. He's traditionally been a starting pitcher. He's even thrown a no-hitter. But where he really makes his bones is at the plate as well. He hits countless number of home runs and drives in a ton of runs as well. Now, if we look at the other 2, they haven't played in the JAL yet, but from all accounts that I've heard, Kyle Godino could possibly be the next best pitcher in the league. And Brad Williamson has played his whole life and is just, I've heard, a really good wiffle ball player. This team's got a lot of talent and depth between these 3 players. I mean, if Kyle's not thrown a good game since he's been named the starting pitcher, throw Tate in there. What could go wrong? And I don't think much trouble is going to come on the offensive side either. But we'll have to wait and see. I think this team can definitely be a championship contender. Okay, now we're on to free agents. An article the other day came out talking about free agents that are still left on the market. And the first name that comes to my mind is Kevin Johnson. He's a two-way player. What he does best is pitch. In the last tournament, he had a 1.5 ERA, and really that's what he does best. He throws strikes kind of like Jordan Halverson does, makes you swing, and he throws pretty hard. But he's also a good batter as well. And most people have a good on-base percentage because they get walked all the time. but he actually has a good batting average of 307 as well, and he makes contact, so he's not just getting singles all the time, but he's driving runs in. So he's definitely an effective player. He can definitely be a player who leads your team to a championship. Now the next guy I want to talk about is Bryce DeSarmo. Now Bryce isn't the greatest batter in the world. He'll swing and miss quite a bit, but he actually can get hot and knock off a few homers in a game. So he can get hot at the plate, but he's pretty hit and miss there. But where he really makes his bones is in the field. He's really athletic, he can jump high, and so he's kind of like Darren. He'll try harder than anyone else out there. And that's really all you have to do in the field to be good out there, but that's what he does, and that's what makes him effective. So if a team wants and is in need of someone, he's a pretty good pickup. Now the last guy I'm going to talk about here isn't a name that was on the list in the article, but it's someone that I think should be mentioned, and that's Nick Proudfoot. Now I know he hasn't played in the JAL before, but he's shown some interest, and it's more a matter of when than if he does. And I'll tell you what, I think he can be a pretty good player, kind of a dark horse in the free agency. He's pretty athletic. He's just a good athlete. I think he'll be able to hit okay at least, and he'll be pretty good in the field. So I think if someone is looking for someone that they need to fill a spot, he'd be a pretty good pick. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the release of the JAL 12 schedule. But before we release it, I got to tell you about a few things that you may already know. First of all, this tournament will be played on 2 fields, so that 2 games will be able to go on at a time. However, there will be 4 primetime games, meaning that will be the only game going on at that time, so everybody can watch. Think about it like how the NFL does Sunday night and Monday night football. Other than that, each team's still going to play 3 games, but this time the league is split up into the American and National Conference, so 2 of those games will be in-conference opponents, and 1 of those games will be a non-conference opponent. Finally, once you get to the playoffs, the 2 top seeds in each conference will meet in the conference finals, and the winner of those games will go on to play in the Winner Chicken Dinner Cup to see who brings home the trophy. Alright, let's get to the matchups. As you can see, games in the left-hand column will be played on Field 1, and games in the right-hand column will be played on Field 2. And we begin the tournament at 4:30 with a primetime matchup between the Lynx and the Bay Area Fog. Big-time pitching matchup there between Jordan Halverson and reigning MVP Jacob Braun. And we follow that up with another primetime matchup between the 2 new teams, the Missouri Express and the Cowlitz Bambinos. At 5, we have our first doubleheader with the Vancouver Cobras taking on the Abalone Hill Underdogs and the Fog taking on the Castle Rock Rapids at the same time. Following that at 5:15, we have another doubleheader between the Missouri Express and the Bison, and the second game is the Bambinos and the Lynx. And then at 5:30 we have our third primetime game between the Rapids and the Abalone Hill Underdogs. At 5:45 we have another doubleheader between the Vancouver Cobras and the Bambinos. At the same time, going on is the Missouri Express and the Bay Area Fog. Then our final primetime game of the regular season is between the Bison and the Vancouver Cobras at 6 o'clock. And we finish out the regular season at 6:15 with the Lynx playing the Abalone Hill Underdogs and the Rapids playing the Bison. Then at 6:30 we have the American Conference Finals, and at 6:45 follows the National Conference Finals, and at 7 o'clock, hopefully, we have the Winner Chicken Dinner Cup to end the tournament.